Hi, this is Daniel Hutchins, and today I'm going to be doing another Flashback Sunday video. So I know it's been a while since I've done Flashback Sunday videos, so I figured I'd bring back the Flashback Sunday videos. So, if you subscribers know what a Flashback Sunday video is, it's basically I talk about a movie that has already been out and just what the movie is. So yeah, anyway, with that being said, I'm going to be talking about Spider-Man 2. So Spider-Man 2 is a 2004 American superhero film directed by Sam Raimi and written by Alvin Sargent from a story by Alfred Grove, Miles Miller, and Michael Chabon, based on the fictional Marvel comic character of the same name. It is the second installment in the Spider-Man trilogy and a sequel to 2002's Spider-Man film, starring Tobey Maguire alongside Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Alfred Molina, Rosemary Harris, and Donna Murphy. Directed by Sam Raimi, produced by Laura Ziskin and Avi Arad, screenplay by Alvin Sargent, storyplay by Alfred Go, Miles Miller, and Michael Chabon, based on Spider-Man by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, starring Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Alfred Molina, Rosemary Harris, Donna Murphy. Music by Danny Elfman, cinematography by Bill Pope, edited by Bob Murawski. Production companies is Columbia Pictures, Marvel Enterprises, and Laura Ziskin Productions. Distributed by Sony Pictures Releasing. Release date June 22nd of 2004, Man Village Theater, and June 30th of 2004, United States. Runtime is 127 minutes. Country United States. Language is English. Budget is $200 million, and box office was $789 million. Okay, so set 2 years after the events of Spider-Man, the film finds Peter Parker struggling to manage both his personal life and his duties as Spider-Man, which affects his civilian life dramatically. Meanwhile, Dr. Otto Octavius becomes a diabolical villain after a failed experiment kills his wife and leaves him neurologically fused to mechanical tentacles. Spider-Man must stop him from successfully recreating a dangerous experiment while dealing with his subconscious desire to stop being Spider-Man that has stripping him of his power. Raimi's inspiration for the film came from the comic book debut Dr. Octopus in 1964, the 1966 story arc If This Be My Destiny, and the 1967 story arc Spider-Man No More. Principal photography began in April 2003 in New York City and also took place in Los Angeles. Spider-Man 2 was released in both conventional and IMAX theaters on June 30th of 2004. To widespread critical acclaim that grossed $789 million worldwide, becoming the third highest grossing film of the year, and won the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, and was also nominated for the Best Sound Mixing and Best Sound Editing. Also received 5 awards of the Saturn Awards, including Best Fantasy Film, Best Director for Raimi. It's considered as one of the most influential and best superhero films of all time. Its success led to Spider-Man 3 of 2007. So 2 years after Norman Osborn's death, Peter Parker, aka Superhero Spider-Man, is estranged from both his love interest Mary Jane Watson and his best friend Harry Osborn. He also discovers that his Aunt May is facing eviction, finds himself suffering temporarily but recurrent losses of his powers, often in life-threatening situations. Harry, who is now head of Oscorp Genetic and Scientific Research Division, is sponsoring a fusion power project by nuclear scientist Otto Octavius, who befriends and mentors Peter. While handling hazardous material, Octavius wears a harness of powerful robotic tentacle arms with artificial intelligence. During a public demonstration that Peter and Harry attend, a power spike causes the fusion reactor to destabilize. Octavius refuses to shut down the reactor, which goes critical, killing his wife and burning the inhibitor chip blocking his arms from his nervous system. Peter, as Spider-Man, shuts the experiment down, destroying it in the process. At a hospital, doctors prepare to surgically remove Octavius' harness without the inhibitor chip. The now sentient arms defend themselves by killing the doctors. Upon regaining consciousness and seeing the carnage, Octavius escapes and takes refuge at a harbor. Becoming increasingly influenced by the arms AI, he decides to retry his experiment. So he robs a bank to fund a second experiment. Peter and May coincidentally are there, and Octavius takes May hostage. Peter rescues her, but Octavius flees with the stolen money. Gary Beagle subsequently dubs the scientist Dr. Octopus. Mary Jane becomes engaged to astronaut John Jameson, the son of Beagle editor J. Jonah Jameson. Peter suffers an emotional breakdown over his inability to balance his life and loses his powers. He quits being Spider-Man, returns to normal life, and attempts to reconcile with Mary Jane. But with little success, Garbage Man brings Peter's costume to Jameson, who takes credit for driving Spider-Man into hiding. Peter tells May the truth about Uncle Ben's death and how he's responsible. May forgives him, but the rising New York City crime rates worries Peter. Requiring the isotope tritium to fuel his reactor, Octavius visits Harry to demand it. Harry then agrees in exchange for Spider-Man, whom he believes is responsible for Norman's death. He tells Octavius to seek Peter, who Harry believes is friends with Spider-Man, but tells Octavius not to harm him. Octavius locates Peter, tells him to find Spider-Man, and captures Mary Jane. Our endangerment leads to Peter's powers resurrecting, as Jameson admits that he was wrong about Spider-Man. Peter steals his costume back from the Beagle and goes after Octavius. As Peter battles Octavius, they fall into the New York City subway train. Octavius sabotages the controls and leaves Peter to save passengers, which he does at great physical toil. When he faints from exhaustion, the grateful passengers save him from falling and bring him to the train. Sees his unmasked face but prompts him to keep their knowledge hidden. They unsuccessfully try to protect him when Octavius returns to capture Peter, whom Octavius delivers to Harry. After giving Octavius the tritium, Harry prepares to kill Spider-Man, only to be shocked to see Peter under the mask. Peter convinces Harry to direct him to Octavius' lair, as bigger things are at stake. As Peter arrives at the doctor's waterfront laboratory, attempts to rescue Mary Jane discreetly, Octavius discovers him, and they battle as the nuclear reaction swells and starts threatening the city. Peter ultimately subdues Octavius, reveals his identity, and persuades Octavius to let his dream go for the greater good. Octavius commands the tentacles to obey him and gives him the life to destroy the experiment. Mary Jane sees Peter's true identity and feelings, which he says is why they cannot be together. Peter returns Mary Jane to John and leaves. Harry is visited by a vision of his father in a mirror, pleading for Harry to avenge his death. Enraged, Harry shatters the mirror, inadvertently revealing a secret room containing prototypes of the Green Goblin's equipment. On her wedding day, Mary Jane abandons John at the altar and runs to Peter's apartment. After they kiss, they hear police sirens and Mary Jane encourages him to go help as Spider-Man. So there you go, guys. That is just a little bit of information about the second Spider-Man movie. So if you guys like this content, make sure you hit a thumbs up and you subscribe if you haven't yet. And you guys have a nice day. Bye.